Okay, so we talk about how students are progressing on a scale, but topics, targets, scales, this is a lot of new vocabulary.
Right.
Can you go through an example of a scale?
Sure, of course. So as we look at this scale, and the name of the scale is Create and Solve Equations. It is an Algebra 1 scale, but it's a 4-level scale. Take a look at level 3, if you would. The level 3 on the scale is what we call the level of proficiency, or the learning goal level. It has to do with being on target for your grade level. We're looking for level 3 from all students. Underneath that...
So wait a minute, so you're saying that a level 3 means the student has met and is proficient in this topic.
Yes.
And if they get 3s in every topic, by the end of the semester, they'll have an A in the class.
Yes, that would be...
So sometimes kids will say, oh, a 3 is an A, but that's not quite right. A 3 means that you have met that topic.
Right.
And every major concept within that topic you can do.
Right. You have provided evidence for that. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So it's all the topics together that make up the grade.
Yes, at the end of the semester, which is what Infinite Campus does. All along the way, it's the teacher using professional judgment about the student's evidence and working from there. So coming back to the scale, we just talked about level 3. You look at level 2 underneath. We consider level 2 foundational knowledge. You see a little plus sign next to the 2. That means that teachers could add learning targets to level 2. They can't take things away. But really, we do not focus on level 2. We focus on level 3. And we dip down into level 2 once in a while if we need to, help teach a little bit of more foundational work, but we really focus on level 3.
And what I notice when I look at teachers at Central Academy, a lot of times they'll start with a really broad idea and find out where students are missing foundational knowledge and then backfill that.
Right.
Instead of, here's this foundational piece, and then this is the next one, and here's the next one, so that we build it up. Instead, most of our students are coming in with some really high-level thinking.
Right.
And so they're ready to go at that high level, but they may be missing a foundational piece. So we backfill that instead of starting with that.
Exactly right. And in fact, in most schools, we kind of suggest the same thing, only because historically, we've had teachers dwell in foundational work way too long, and they don't have time. So yeah, I agree totally. And you look at the scale again, we see a level 1. What we just call level 1 is not a level 2. So we don't pay lots of attention to level 1. We really want to keep moving up. Then you do see a level 4 in the scale as well. If you are looking at the scale with me, which I think you are, you see kind of some generic wording. First of all, you saw generic wording in level 1. Take a look at level 4. You see some generic wording up there too. So what that allows is a little bit of freedom on the part of the teacher or the teacher's collaborative team to figure out what could be a level 4 task or assignment. And what we mean by level 4, we call level 4 exceeding. And we do that because what we mean is exceeding in cognitive demand for the kids. It exceeds level 3 in the cognitive demand and the application and the authenticness of the task or the assignment or whatever. So that's what we're looking for there. But really, we are truly focusing on level 3 and level 4 at the same time. So one more thing I'd like to mention about this scale. So we just talked about level 4. Now take a look at levels 3 and 2 one more time. You see letters there, you see A, B, C, D, you see these phrases. Those are called learning targets that we call learning targets. And what they do is they help represent the progression of learning for that particular level on the proficiency scale. So you'll see different verbs being used, and as they're usually complete sentences. You see some parenthetical information there that shows where we drew it from, whatever the standards are. For example, the Common Core state standards, which are the Iowa state standards for math and literacy, as well as all the national standards. So we try to put that right in there when we built these scales to make sure that we're accounting for that. So you see that level 3 in this particular one has 4 learning targets. Level 2 also happens to have 4 learning targets.
They don't
So-
always have 4.
No, not always. And sometimes they don't match up necessarily, but I just wanted to make sure we're all clear on what those things are called.
Okay, so 2A does not necessarily go with 3A.
No, not necessarily. Sometimes they do. It depends on how different collaborative teams built their scales.
Okay, so just to review the vocabulary, the topic in this example is create and solve equations.
Uh-huh.
The targets are listed under the number 3,
Right,
and foundational knowledge is listed under number 2.
right. And for a student to have met level 3, they have to have met the whole of level 3 to be able to say that they're proficient in that, or a teacher and the student determines.
Okay,
Just
so
be
in
clear on
this
that.
particular example, if they can do all 4 of those targets in the level 3, then they would be mastering the create and solve equations topic.
Yes, they're proficient in that topic.
Okay, so when we were at parent conferences, I had a parent who was quite distressed.
Uh-huh.
She's like, I was just getting used to the numbers, and now all these letters have popped up. I don't know what that means, and it was quite distressing. Our goal, what we're trying to do, I think, is we're trying to get to the point where instead of a big amalgam of all these different assignments lumped together into a percentage, we're trying to be very specific with this is what we want you to know and be able to do, and this is where you are in your ability to know and be able to do that, or demonstrate that you know and are able to do that with the evidence in the body of evidence, right?
Right.
The numbers are supposed to be what we use when we are scoring the topic in total,
Correct.
when there's lots of targets. And the letters are supposed to be when we're talking about specific targets in the 3.
Right. And the letters you're talking about are what? They're the ET?
ET, which would be exceeding target.
Right.
And then the AT, which is,
Achieving the target.
so if I had an AT, that means I have met that target.
Right.
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 What about PT?
Well, PT means progressing toward the target, and it means just that. The student has offered evidence, but the teacher, using professional judgment and looking at that student evidence, is not confident yet in saying that that student has shown that that student is achieving that particular target. So it means the student is well on her way to doing that, and she likely needs to study some more or demonstrate, give some more evidence, maybe have a good conversation with the teacher, something like that. And yes, there's a little bit of a range to PT, to progressing toward the target, but really it's not anything meant to be stressful. It's just that that student is on her way, just not there quite yet.
So when we're looking at a PT, that might be where the teacher is giving some specific individualized feedback to the student
Yes.
in comments.
Yes.
And it may not be an Infinite Campus, but it may be comments on their assignments in
Right.
particular.
Right.
So here's the question. Why not just call the ET a 4
Well,
or a PT a 2?
right.
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 Why have 2?
Right, I know, and I know that some parents had expressed to me too that they weren't understanding that. Do you have any comments on that?
The reason why we switched, I think, to the numbers, or to the letters, is because kids are getting so hung up on numbers and grade point average, and this means this, and this means
Yeah.
that, that they are losing sight of the fact that they're trying to get to a particular mastery of a particular
Right.
skill, a very
Right.
discrete thing.
Right.
So by moving to letters, ET, AT, PT, and NM, it lets you know how you are on that in that moment instead of converting everything over into a number immediately.
Yeah.
Because many students, that actually derails their
Right.
progress.
I agree.
They get so into what's the number that they don't actually have time to look at the comments and go,
Right.
oh gosh, this is feedback I can use.
Right. And actually, it's the comments and the feedback. Research bears that out. That if you can give feedback, and in fact, if they can see feedback without any number or score attached to it, it's all the better. Now that doesn't happen all the time, but feedback is critical to students so they know what to do next in order to improve. So
That's right.
and it is a big break from our past. And again, we're in the middle of that transition. So it's a little messy right now, but it's all toward the better, and we're moving ahead on that. So